Hello everyone, and today I thought I would make a video about perhaps arguably the greatest mod of all time ever created for Total War, and that is Europa Barbarorum 4, the original Rome Total War. Now, I have talked about Europa Barbarorum before. I have made videos about it, not as many as I would like. Of course, I do have the Europa Barbarorum 2 and 1 reviews. I have a comparison video where I compare Europa Barbarorum 1 and 2. And I have a series of guide videos as well as a couple of Let's Plays from Europa Barbarorum 2. But I have not yet done a Let's Play on the channel of Europa Barbarorum 1, and I hope to rectify that at some point soon. But today I'm just going to talk about the mod in general and how I feel it needs to get some more attention because it's very different compared to a lot of other mods. I'm just checking my settings here real quick. Okay, everything seems okay. Now, let's take a look at the faction list here. So, Europa Barbarorum, of course, similar to the Mundus Magnus map, for Rome 1 as well as Rome Remastered, extends from the Iberian Peninsula to Central Asia, and I think it has a very good list of major factions. So, considering the limitations of Rome 1 and how you're limited to 21 factions, I think Europa Barbarorum did an excellent job of choosing which factions to include and which to not include. Now, in the East, one of the major reasons I feel Europa Barbarorum is one of the greatest mods ever made is that they took great care with regions that are usually overlooked by other modifications and vanilla Total War games as well. So they put a lot of effort into making the Near East detailed. Factions like Pontus, Armenia, Bactria, the Sakarauka in Central Asia, very detailed factions, very, very good gameplay. So, of course, in other modifications or in vanilla Total Wars, you know, Rome gets all the attention in terms of its scripting, the historical nature of the campaign, the development of the campaign, the reforms, right? So Roman reforms in standard Rome Total War are present, right? But none of the other factions get any reforms. They don't get any attention in that manner. And the original Europa Barbarorum really rectified that, gave a lot of factions several different reforms. Now, are the reforms included in Europa Barbarorum 1 as good as those in EB2? No. And that's actually pretty much the main advantage I feel EB2 has over EB1, aside from things like AI and technical aspects, is that EB2 has extensive reforms for pretty much all the factions rather than just a few. EB1 has reforms for the Seleucids, for example. You get the cataphract reforms for the Sakarauka. Once you take one of the sort of Hellenistic Near Eastern settlements in Bactria or around it, the Sakarauka become sort of settled, so you can then recruit Indo-Saka and Greco, Indo-Greek type units, which I think is a very great aspect. Aside from the Romans having an extensive reform system, Armenia actually has very extensive reforms for EB1. So, like the other factions I mentioned, the Sakarauka, you take a settlement and hold it for several turns, and there you get the reforms. Seleucids, you have to lose a few battles against Eastern factions, boom, you get the cataphract reforms. But The Romans have very extensive reforms, of course. The Polybian, you start out with the Camillan military system, and then you get the Polybian reforms, and then you get the Marian reforms, right? And there are very few factions that have such tiered reform systems. Armenia is one of them, and Armenia keeps that extensive developed reform system for EB2 as well. It's very cool to see that. Other than that, I have to say, let's get into a campaign here. So I guess I'll start one as Pontus. So sorry, my Rome Total War crashed for a moment there. Of course, when you select a bunch of factions, that can happen in Rome 1 and Medieval 2, that's for sure. Not in the remaster, so that's one of the advantages of the remaster. But let's start a game here as Pontus. And I just want to quickly talk about what I feel is one of the greatest aspects of Europa Barbarorum. So there was once a thread on Total War Center. I believe it was in the EB2 forums. If I'm not mistaken, it wasn't in the EB1 forums. But they talked about how Europa Barbarorum is a Pokemon game, right? And what did that person mean by that? I thought it was very interesting. Is that it's that the excitement. What's the fun part of a Pokemon game? Besides the competitive aspect, the social aspect, playing with your friends. The other aspect that's really fun is finding new Pokemon, finding ways to utilize new Pokemon. Right now, it got me thinking about Europa Barbarorum 1, and in a lot of ways, it is like a Pokemon game, right? So let's start the script here. Now, you think about the different provinces here. So Pontus, I control Cappadocia Pontica with capital at Amasya here. And I'm surrounded by very diverse provinces, right? So to the north, I have Paphlagonia. Of course, to the south and southwest, I have Bithynia, Galatia, Cappadocia. To the east, I have Armenia Minor, right? And then Colchis. And then, of course, you get into Syria, Assyria, Sophene, Kilikia. Now, why do I mention this? So, if you look up recruitable units, in Amasya, you have access to, your basic Pontic units, pikemen, medium cavalry, things of that nature. Pontus being depicted as a very Hellenized, Near Eastern Achaemenid successor state, right? But to the north, Sinop and Trapezond, you have access to Greek colonial units, so you get access to more sort of Hellenic type units, right? So lighter, not as effective cavalry, light missile units like the Toxotai, as well as, other types of pikemen, hoplites, things of that nature. Whereas to the east, you have Armenia Minor, right? So you get access to Armenian cavalry, heavier cavalry, better Lancer type units. The Armenian medium cavalry is an effective Lancer sort of unit. To the south and southwest, you have access to Galatian units, right? So you get access to the heavy, high morale Galatian swordsmen, weak to missile units, low armor, but high attack, effective against armor, effective as flankers, right? Of course, Galatian spearmen are also quite effective too. And of course, as you go farther east, you get access to more types of missile units, more types of cavalry. In Atropatene, you get access to the Mardian archers, which are very effective. A high missile damage, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, in this region here, you get access to the Caucasian spearmen, another very effective type unit. But again, let's say as Pontus, you take, Colchis and Iberia, for example. And then you recruit a lot of Caucasian spearmen because they're somewhat effective and effective against cavalry, and they have decent morale, all things considered. So you use them to swarm your enemies here in the Near East and Caucasus. But then as you campaign against, I don't know, the Seleucid Empire to the south, first of all, you'll find that the Caucasian spearmen are not super effective against the Seleucid phalanx pikemen type units, right? And they're not super effective if the Seleucids are utilizing cataphract type units. The Caucasian spearmen are not going to be that effective against them, especially if they get flanked. And of course, the other aspect you have to consider here is that you won't be able to retrain Caucasian spearmen units outside of this region right here, right? So then if you campaign in Galatia and you lose a bunch of your Caucasian spearmen, even if you win, will you be able to hold this territory with your remaining units? Because you will not be able to retrain your Caucasian spearmen units down here, right? So Europa Barbarorum's AOR system is definitely its strongest aspect to me. And that's why I brought up that thread that talked about Europa Barbarorum being a Pokemon type game and getting access to these new units, utilizing these new units in different regions. That's where a lot of the fun in Europa Barbarorum is for me personally. And I feel like in 2021, this gameplay is still highly engaging. You know, getting new settlements, checking out the new wonders in, you know, regions that are out of the spotlight in for a lot of people. Like, you know, Pontus is a kingdom, for example, that a lot of people don't talk about. I'd say 99.599% of people don't know about Pontus, right? Even though, of course, shout out to my Pontic Greek viewers out there. Yeah, you have the royal tombs of the kings of Pontus here as a wonder here. And, you know, Europa Barbarorum is such a great resource for people who are just casual fans of history, right? And want to learn about the history of various regions. Because, of course, today, you know, education in the education system, they don't seem to care all that much about kingdoms like Pontus, my favorite kind of kingdom, the overlooked one. But of course, the other aspect of EB that I feel is amazing is the territory system, the faction government system, right? So this is a royal Pontic territory. So it's a number one homeland government type province. And I feel that, you know, taking a new province, being forced to occupy it, and then constructing the government buildings you want. And of course, as you get reforms, as various factions like Armenia, for example, you get access to the satrap type government. You get access to the allied territory type government. You can choose how you want to incorporate that territory into your kingdom, right? Do you want Cappadocia to be a vassal kingdom, an allied government, or do you want it to be incorporated into your royal territory? These are all considerations that you have to think about in Europa Barbarorum. And then when you go back to vanilla Rome Total War, when you go back to Rome Remastered, when you go back to vanilla Medieval 2 Total War, you don't think about those things, and it makes the game for me feel a little bit more bland, right? When you don't have to take things like that into consideration. That's why mods like Tsardoms, like the Great Conflicts, like Europa Barbarorum, I feel are, and you know, to a degree, Chivalry 1, not Chivalry 2 so much, but Chivalry 1 for the medieval era Rome Total War mod. These mods, they really push that. They make you think before you occupy a territory. You have to think about the historical, cultural background of that province. Can you hold it? Is it a rebellious province? Is it culturally integratable into your kingdom? Right? Will you be able to hold it with the troops you have in your army? Because can you retrain them in time? Do you have enough troops to defeat the enemy and have enough of a garrison to hold that Galatia with your Caucasian spearmen? Just as an example. These are all considerations. This is why I think Europa Barbarorum is still one of the best campaigns you can play in 2021. Those are just my thoughts on it. I just wanted to get a quick video out there. Of course, I mentioned on my community post a couple days ago that we just had a baby. So I have not had too much time to make too much content recently, but I had a few minutes today. I thought this would be a fun video to make. Of course, there's construction noises as I speak, but I've also upgraded my audio setup a little bit. So I've got a boom arm, I've got a pop filter, so I've got my Razer Siren X budget, admittedly, streaming microphone set up in a much better position now. So hopefully the audio quality is better despite the hammering everywhere. And yeah, we just had a baby. So if I have long stretches here where I don't have time to make a video, please forgive me. But I know there is a lot coming up here. The Civ 6 anthology, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Humankind just released on Xbox Game Pass for PC, and that's a game I just got access to, and I've been toying with it a little bit, and I wanted to give my thoughts on it as a sort of hybrid game. You know, it kind of combines aspects of Civilization with a tiny bit of Total War in there, I feel. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say about EB1 today. Still one of the best campaigns, one of the best mods to play in 2021. I really hope someone thinks about porting it to Rome Remastered, because, you know, this game crashed a couple of times while I was trying to record this video. So then that's something, you know, that would be rectified by a port to the remaster. In any case, that's pretty much everything I have to say for today. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Discussion video. Let me know what you think of Europa Barbarorum 1 in the comments. Should I make some Let's Play videos about it? Should I make some guides about it? I know I just haven't had time to get around to it. But again, one of my favorite mods of all time. I'm down to do a Pontic campaign. I know nobody wants to play as Pontus, but perhaps I'm the only one that does. If you enjoy the historical Total Wars and their mods, consider leaving a like and perhaps subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.